Welcome back to another episode of Spirit of an Athlete. I'm your host, Amanda Smith, and on this episode, I interviewed Dr. Tiffany Johnson. She is a holistic chiropractor who is a mom, a wife. She has 2 kids who have done high-level athletics, including college. She's experienced many things in terms of being a leader in her family as well as in her business. On this episode, we talk about a lot of different things, but the ones that I want to highlight here so you know they're coming is leadership, how to be a leader as a parent and a mom in particular for an athlete, but just in general. All the things that we have to know and teach before our kids go off to college or become adults, and how to navigate that. How to navigate the nervous system and allow for anxiety and depression to move through instead of get stuck in the body. Tiffany does a phenomenal job of helping us understand how to use someone like her in the chiropractic industry to move away from the Western model of medicine. I truly hope you enjoy this episode. Dr. Tiffany Johnson, thank you so much for saying yes to being on Spirit of an Athlete.
You're welcome.
Okay, so what was life like before you became a chiropractor?
Well, it feels like I've had more of life with being a chiropractor than before. So, oof. I was a follower. I was timid. I didn't speak up. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Um It's kind of like I was maybe a minnow in the ocean, like whoosh. Oh, let's go here with these groups of fish. And then, oh no, the current was too strong. That's about what it was like. And so, back in the day, travel sports was not what travel sports is like now.
Right.
Thank goodness. Um, so I played basketball a lot, but not like how people play now. And all I knew was going to college, I wanted to play basketball, and I was introduced to chiropractic my 8th grade year actually with ankle and knee pain. And I went a different route than just athletic chiropractic, but that very much so opened my eyes on chiropractic and performance and how much more I want to help kids, and not necessarily physically, but at that moment it was psychologically. So, I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to work in like the sports psychology era.
Yes.
And then I recognized that like medication goes with that, and I'm not for that. And so, I really just started digging into what would make me the most happy to take care of people, to use my personality in the way that I know I can move a room. I did know I could move a room even back then, but um, and really give hope to people. And so before, really before I decided to be a chiropractor, which was my official junior year of college, I'd say everything was pretty rocky. I was highly impressionable. I didn't know who I was, what I really stood for at all. And so I've had quite a depth of personal development in these last 2 decades.
That tends to happen when we decide we're going to be an entrepreneur
You're right.
and a mom. So you are a mom of
Mm,
athletes. Is that right? Tell us a little about that.
yeah. So Callan, they're graduated now, but Callan is 23, just graduated from college. She played college soccer, high school soccer and basketball. Gavin graduated last year. He played basketball until he was a sophomore, and then football. Had a season-ending injury actually last year. Um, that was it's a tough gig for a family who does things a little bit different than medical, right?
Yes.
Because an injury in a sport puts you directly into the medical system. And we chose not to go the medical system. And so, yeah, that might be a conversation for a different day. But um, we were both high school and college athletes. Both Craig and I were. So we coached our kids just about all the way through. I mean, we were running soccer clubs and we were doing all the things in order for our kids to have an opportunity to play. And so Callan we always knew she would be a college soccer player, like
from the
since
get-go?
she was this big. Yeah. And Gavin, we were just having this conversation actually last week, and he's like, I mean, once the little boy dream of being the,
Pro athlete.
you know, pro athlete is
Mhm.
done, he's like, I never really wanted to. I saw what Callan went through. I saw what your guys' stories were with it, and my value this is interesting coming out of his mouth. He said my identity was not as an athlete, and I didn't want it to be as an athlete.
Okay.
And he's an athlete,
Yeah.
but you know the
Yeah.
difference in like the kids that aren't anything else,
Yep.
and all of a sudden they get done with their college sport or semi-pro sport and they don't know who they are.
Mhm.
He's seen enough of that to know that he didn't want to go that route. So interesting.
That's some amazing awareness at that age. Truly. I was definitely one of those kids that was wrapped into my sport and identified as my sport, and when it was all over, went into a small period of depression.
Yeah,
I'd
totally.
experienced a depression before that when I had to switch from Division 1 to Division 2 softball because of coaching situations, and
Mm,
that that put me into a deep, dark depression. Are you
mm.
seeing anything like that with him? Like,
Nope.
he's not tied to that at all, so it's just easy peasy.
Yeah, like none at all. None at all.
Yeah.
Whereas if Cal couldn't have played college, for whatever reason, she would have went through that. Her college years were, I mean, just success of the team. Everything was kind of rocky.
Mhm.
And just understanding college sport versus high school sport, not being home, all the things.
Yeah.
So she couldn't freaking wait to be done and expand her identity in her own way and not be tied to that. So I see this all the time. I say addicted to winning in a positive way, but
Mm.
like the true winners, like there's a difference between the true winners that actually don't lose. and and unfortunately they also don't know how to lose because they never have.
Right?
I mean, like, yes, I understand some people say there's so many gifts in the losing. Yes, and there's a lot of gifts in the winning. But what happens when we start to dismantle the identities that go with being a successful winner in your sport now to just a normal human living and breathing the same air that all of us do?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
depression is real.
Yes. It is. You and I talked about this before in the pre-interview. You've just recently dealt with your own level of depression. Is that right?
Mm. Yeah, I wouldn't say recently. I would say I I would say the spring has always been rocky for me from um the time I was 15, interestingly enough. And when I stopped drinking 3.5 years ago, I kind of forgot that because, like, I don't know, it's spring and it's summer and it's, hello, apps and taps
Yes.
and patios and all the things.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think recognizing some of the patterns that we go through and the seasons that bring them out
Mhm.
and the coping strategies that we used to have tell us a whole lot about where we need to go for healing in the next era of really who we are.
Yeah. Did your daughter experience any blues, any depression when she was done playing her sport?
Nope. I would
She
say
knew.
she did while playing because she played early. She made higher level teams at a younger age
Mhm.
and wasn't with her team, her friends.
Yeah.
So You were always like implanted into another demographic of people.
Mhm.
Um, she hit puberty late. She ran cross country her 8th and 9th grade year. So she was just like, I mean, we make fun of it now, but truly a little girl as a freshman. Still didn't know how she felt about boys. Didn't was hardly had her period, and then she didn't have it when she was a cross runner,
Mhm.
um, and really struggled with like identity issues. Then of like, oh my gosh, all these girls and all these friends are talking about all these things, and I am not anywhere near this place. And so she actually went through a lot of harder stuff growing up in that freshman to senior. I'd say her college years were the hard easy. She knew who she was her college years, put it that way.
Nice.
What made her the most sad is how many people struggled. And interestingly enough, we didn't talk about this before we talked the last time, but um, she was on a committee in college that they were really digging into mental health
Mhm.
and starting to put out surveys and put out polls of like, how are you doing? And she was a major, she vouched for this very strong, and there were a few of them that carried this through, um
Mm.
because she knew how much her friends struggled. I mean, it's just like, not even struggled as in clinically depressed, but just kind of always struggled, right? And
Yeah.
she's like, oh my gosh, these guys, if they don't if they don't play on the soccer team, they think that means something about their personal identity and all of these pieces. But she spearheaded with a few other people, like a mental health survey that they sent to all the athletes of this college. And it was mind blowing how much anxiety, how much depression, how much suicidal ideations there were in the athletes. Because
Mhm.
she always thought that was our safe place. Like that's our home.
Yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't be miserable.
Right?
And then you put pressure and expectation on it. And then you put different coaching philosophies. And then you put trying to figure out who the hell you are in your life and what you're going to do after. And boom, if you don't have enough tools going into that time of your life, you might dip a little bit too far. So
Yeah.
yes, I would just went on a tangent on that. I
That
think
was
it's a
an
very
Mhm.
she's she has very strong beliefs on what the athletic world needs right now, and what they need from their coach, what they need from their AD, what they need from each other, and the culture that really needs to be built in schools now and on teams.
Yes. Yes. That I thank you for bringing light to that. I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of listeners of this podcast that their kids wanna go and play in college, or they are playing in college, and they're
Mm.
experiencing this, and they're really going, "Well, why? Why are we experiencing this?" I mean, we are post-COVID, so a lot of things have changed since COVID, but even still, this was an issue in sports for a very long time because
Yeah.
as athletes, as high-level athletes as well, I mean, if you're playing in college, you're among the top 5%. If you're playing in
Mm.
Division 1, depending on the sport, you're in the top 1%. Top 1%. And that just understanding that by itself puts pressure on you. And then
Yes.
you've got to put
Yes.
pressure on yourself to produce on a day-to-day basis, not only in your classroom, you've got to pass those classes in order to play. You've also got to play to the potential that the coach is expecting you to play at so that you can keep your position.
Yes.
Yeah, the amount of pressure that college athletes especially put on themselves is pretty phenomenal. And then it just escalates from there. If you're playing pro, if you're in the Olympics, if you are doing World Cup, Commonwealth Games, any of those, that is all the
Yep.
elite levels, international, semi pro, it doesn't matter. You are in the upper echelon of that sport, but this is also being seen at the high school level.
Mhm.
And there
It's I would say, because I've been working with people for truly 2 decades, And I see so many families. It is way before high school.
Yes.
I mean, I'm seeing it in second and third grade. I'm not even joking
Yep.
of where the pressure is coming from. And I've been contemplating this a lot, like um how many of these kids have parents that they're living through, right?
Yep.
Like, ooh, I get to live through, all my successes and failures. Now I get to live through my kids and I get to do all these things. And their family might not be unbreakable, right? Like they might not truly feel safe in all those places at home. And so all of a sudden a parent that has pressure or that they have expectations that really isn't what their kid wants. Holy
Mm.
crap.
Yes.
I was just reading a stat actually since COVID, because anxiety, depression is one of my X factors of like what I have a magic stick in. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, Anxiety has went up 26% since COVID. 4 years, 26%. And that's like truly a diagnosis. So I would say I mean, from my perspective, I would say it's probably close to 50.
Yes. Because
And
a
that
lot
is
of
not
people,
just adults.
yeah, that's a
Yes.
lot of people not addressing going to the right person to get that kind of diagnosis. Yes, absolutely. I said this on another person's podcast that I was on. When COVID hit, the whole world's foundation got rocked. The whole world. And we saw it at a systemic level, right? We saw it at the foundations of our financial system. We saw it at our food system. We saw it at obviously our medical system. That was the most apparent. If you didn't notice that our medical system couldn't handle the fact that we had a pandemic, yeah, our medical system couldn't handle it. So we were seeing across the board systemic problems, foundational
Mhm.
problems, which has created this level of unsafety, which, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy, that foundation is food, water, shelter. And then that layer right above it, that's safety. Everybody's safety has been rocked since
Yep.
COVID. And now we've got a bunch of mental health issues really, really coming to the surface. And we're seeing more and more people take action. We're seeing more
Mhm.
and more people coaching mindset and coaching mental health in sports. It's we're in a boom for that, which I'm like,
Yeah.
hallelujah.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
from an just athlete's perspective, there's a lot of unnecessary stress that kids are putting on themselves to produce. But they don't see it
Mhm.
that way. The adults can see it that way because we have perspective. They see it as this is what I have to do. This is my existence.
Yep.
And then from an adult perspective, like it's I think it was the most interesting to drive a car after we finally got let out across the globe. And people's PTSD came out in road rage. And
Yep.
and it became like they got super easily agitated if there was another person in front of them driving.
Yep.
And it it still plays out. Like the area that I live in, we've got a lot of fast drivers. And those fast drivers will ride your butt and you're going the speed limit or maybe even a little over the speed limit and you're in their way. And they let you know
Yep.
in
Yep.
all different ways, shapes, and forms to let you know, including but not limited to trying to run you off the road with their car. That's a mental health issue.
It's just like I would see it as uh, a threshold issue. I mean, our core need is connection
Mhm.
in living.
Yeah.
Like our core need is to be connected with people,
Yep.
to be connected with thoughts, to be connected with ideas, to be connected with a higher power, to be connected.
Yeah.
And so what that did was that shook the foundation. I mean, the true foundation of what it means to actually be alive, like feel alive, because you feel alive when you're with people and when you can experience love.
Mhm.
And so it took that away truly. And when we aren't experiencing something, we lose threshold. We don't know how to handle it, right? We don't know how to handle conflict. We don't know. And yes, I mean, coming out in road rage or coming out whatever all the things are, there's a million things like not going totally right now.
Right.
Um, we recognize though that it is truly a lack of connection and a lack of, well, just a change in philosophy of living. Like
Yes.
for 50 years, somebody could believe something, and all of a sudden, boom. And it's going to keep happening. I mean, in the next few months, there's going to be more booms on this has changed.
Yes.
The perspective and lens that you see through and that you saw through before is not the same. And it's never going to be the same. And so our adaptability has been rocked, our tolerance has been rocked, our threshold has been rocked. And I see this in the nervous system, right? Like
Mhm.
I see this in parents' ability to lead their kids. I see this in kids' ability to connect with other kids. I see in their ability to adapt to getting cut from a team or not getting their way. Or, I mean, it's showing up everywhere. I'm seeing it in toddlers and infants not hitting their milestones. Well, who bared them?
Right.
A stressed out mom.
Yes.
So we can go from the top and go down. And I mean, I can totally understand. Like I could have predicted these trends. I could have predicted them.
Mhm.
No wonder why they're anxious and depressed when they're friggin' 5. Well, where did they come from? And what place did they have they grown up in that is opposite of connection? Because that's what's been taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. We're looking at epigenetics here and then environment. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Man. I love that you've brought up the nervous system. Let's go there. So, you're seeing across the board anxious humans. How in your work as a chiropractor are you helping them from a nervous system perspective?
Well, I function and I practice a little bit differently. I've always seen emotion. I've always seen energy when I adjust. And I always say, your body tells me what to do. Now, to the higher level, I would say I'm very connected with God,
Mhm.
that my energy is a catalyst and an activation for their body to talk to me. Okay. So let's just get that out of the way because most people are going to be like, what the hell is she talking about?
You're a
Well, you don't
channel.
need to know what I'm talking. What I'm finding is people are looking for way more people like me.
Yes.
Of how can we start to do something for ourself, for our bodies, for our brains, for our life that doesn't include traditional models? So I know when your mental body is tapped out. I know when your emotional body, like I know all those pieces. And so the adaptability, it has been crushed. So that's what I'm seeing the most. And adaptability, that doesn't sound like that big of an issue, but it's everywhere because if
Mhm.
you can't adapt in a stressor and or you can't not take it personal or you can't do anything other than yell or cry or retreat or what have you, then you can't actually handle connection. See, this all then goes back to a dysregulated nervous system is a dysregulated body, which means it's a disconnected from God, from each other, and from itself.
Yes.
So, my job is how do we activate the God given things, the God given pieces that are meant to actually make a difference in someone else's life? How do we activate this so now we don't have a diagnosis of anxiety or depression? And I think it's total bullshit, frankly. But I say it's bullshit because I have many, many, many years of reversing this without the use of pharmaceuticals, without the use of all the even all the trauma work. It puts people into tailspins many times if you're not doing it the right way.
Yes.
It puts you into a tailspin of you not being good enough. And if you don't think you're good enough and deserving enough and worthy enough, then how would you ever heal? Like how would your body ever heal? And whether it's a sports incident, which there's many of those now also, like,
Mhm.
hello, we're looking at the same thing. We're looking at dysregulated people.
Yes.
And unfortunately, dysregulated kids don't always have a regulated home to come back to. And so their dysregulated body and mind and psyche, aka soul, is also being mirrored at school. It's being mirrored at work. It's being mirrored in their sport. It's being mirrored everywhere. So no wonder. I mean, they think this is normal now.
Yeah.
So if you don't give a kid a chance to feel ease in their body, they don't ever know what it is. And so they start to experience now as normal. Well, it ain't normal to be anxious or depressed or have chronic pain or not be able to think or not be able to sleep or not being able to poop or not being able to breathe. Like, let's get real. Like, the inhaler is not okay.
Right.
The inhaler on the field is not okay. And I stand for something very different than most people stand for. And I stand for it because I know it can. I mean, with my own eyes, I see miracles every freaking day that proves that this can change and this can be different.
I love that. I absolutely love that. As I allow my nervous system to wiggle out.
I know.
It's it's hard. And I'm seeing it with a bunch of my kids. It's hard to watch and to know that part of this is the parents and their energy, their way of navigating the world and the environment that their kids are in. At any point when you're working with someone, do you point that out? Like, mom, dad, the reason your kid has this issue is because of you.
100% of the time.
How do you approach that?
By not walking on eggshells because we've become so soft. Truly. Like, one of my premises for anybody coming into work with us is we're a partner, we're in a partnership. And so if you feel like you're coming here to be saved or coming here for me to handle your kid, then this isn't the right partnership that I won't ever get into it. And so, but what I've found is we as parents know it's that nobody has the kahunas to actually talk about it.
Yeah.
So if you know, and I know, and I love you and you love and respect me, we have a level of rapport that's already built in the level foundation. It would be out of integrity and out of what I'm put on the planet for, which is to tell the truth, to not say anything. And that's what I feel like is happening. There's a lot of experts that are treating something without talking about parenting,
Uh-huh.
without talking about mindset.
Uh-huh.
And when a kid gets old enough, if I know that there's a lot of influence from the parents that are pulling that child away from the direction he or she wants to go, that I also believe that's the direction, I'll talk directly to them. But when they're, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, like, the influence is heavy
Yeah.
at home. And that could be in medical things like diagnoses. That could be reaching for the Aleve when you have achy legs or pain, or taking Pepto-Bismol when you have heartburn. I don't know if people still do that, but
They do.
like, there's a lot of so it's that, and because that has been imprinted into their brain. It's the importance on sleep. It's importance on screen time. It's I just went for a walk last night and I was talking to myself. I talk to myself all the time, either into Voxer or just out loud to myself. People probably think I'm going bananas, but
You're talking to your phone. You're fine. You must be on a call.
but but that's one thing that I really believe is the most important, is to point out the needle movers. My job is to point out the needle movers, and you are directly responsible for developing your kid's frontal brain.
Yes.
And so we have to be better, because there's no way, and I'll go to bat with anybody that says my kid would rather be on a screen than hang out with me. And no way. That is not true, because we are born and we thrive in connection.
Yeah.
It's just that you haven't taught them how to do it,
Mhm.
or it's not done in a way that they love it or that they feel safe, or there's something off in your leadership of what connection means in your family.
Mm.
Because now they're finding new homes and new friends and all these things online, and it's fake connection. I mean, thank God there is some of that. Okay, so I'm not saying it's all negative, but we can't run from here to there because there is no safety and connection in our homes.
Yeah. Man, right? I love that you point it out to them. You have the guts to point it out because there are a lot of people in the coaching world, especially where coaches are constantly observing the kid and then eventually you observe the parents as well and you understand what's going on truly. Especially for me as athletes, I'm seeing like the dynamic between the parents and the kids. And for you, you have the guts to say, "Hey, here's what I'm observing.
Mhm.
This is the thing that needs to be addressed at home." I've definitely, at times I've tiptoed around that in my coaching because I've built a relationship with the parents and I know the parents are good people and I've built a relationship with the kids and the kids are good kids, but in combination, there's something wrong. And
Mm.
it's sometimes very hard to go, "Hey, parent, like, I know I'm not your kid, and I know I'm not a parent to your kid, but I'm trying to support all of you, and this is what's going on." In
Mhm.
in some instances, I will bring it up, but it's the ones where the parents are the ones that really want their kid to succeed,
Totally.
and
That's
you
exact.
you want them to do that to a certain extent. Right? There's this level that there's
Yep.
this line that you
Mm.
can't cross. And some of my parents that I've worked with currently and in the past, they definitely cross that line and their kids are falling apart. And their kids are going to hit that point where they they're going to quit the sport because of it. And
Yep.
they're gifted kids. They're really great athletes. And to some extent, they need that sport to have the connection.
Right. And to really foster the confidence and the certainty and the conviction that they have of themselves through sport. I mean, and that's what we all love about sport
Yep.
is it's where so many of us did find ourselves in whatever way. Of course, we can go extreme anyway in anything and know that like too black and too white is probably going to get a little bit extreme. It's going to get a little dicey.
Yes. Gray is the area we wanna
But
hover in.
I feel like um I feel like it's our duty to speak up.
I love that. I
I
absolutely
I
love that.
I wouldn't be able yeah, I wouldn't be able to put my head on the pillow and yeah, are there some people that don't like it? That yeah, and that's okay. That still is my duty for the voice of a child
Mhm.
and because I am extremely intuitive, like I just know how to communicate that in a way of like, "Hey, this is what she really needs. Like, we got to change some things. Like, truly, this is what she needs. So, can you start offering this?" So, I mean, food is huge. Food is huge right now. Like paying attention to what they're eating and what they're drinking and what they're really fueling with, and truly the mindset around what food is, because these kids are on social all the time
Yeah.
and not positively on social for food usually.
Right. Right. And water. Can't stress that one enough. And water, exactly. I'm like, "I need a drink t I need a drink too."
Mhm.
Ugh, Doctor Tiff. If you were closer to me, which you're not that far away, but if you were closer, you would be my
I know.
chiropractor.
No.
I
It's
love
actually one of my missions is I got there just needs to be more people that see the body in this way and connect with people in this way, because we really as parents and like women are looking for this for our families.
yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
how do we help everybody, and how when one person is helped and improved, whether that's a mental thing, a physical thing, like the whole family changes.
Mhm.
We need more of this, like the depths of what it means to compete, what it means to be a mom, what it means to be a mom and an entrepreneur, what it means to have a strong marriage and then show that to our kids. Like this all matters so much more. And when they're out of the house, you actually don't have much of an opportunity to lead in that way anymore.
Right?
So
I think
this is the time.
I think as a mom. uh, Sometimes we get overwhelmed by all of the things that we have to do in order to teach our kids what they need to accomplish by the time they're moving out of our house, which is generally around 18. And the fact that we have to lead by example is
Mm.
probably one of the trickier things for moms because a lot of moms know they've gathered the information, they know what they need to teach their kids, they know all the things that their kids should walk away with by the time they're 18, but to actually lead it by example, that's the tougher thing.
But what does that mean?
To lead by example, you've got to
Yeah.
eat healthy and be able to demonstrate that to your child, especially if they're athletes and they're using their bodies a lot more. You've got to be able to teach them what leadership looks like. Be that leader because they will probably be in a leadership role at some point in their lifetime, usually beyond when they're at home. Unless they got the cool opportunity to be a captain of a team, any team, doesn't matter if it's sports or academics or whatever, to have a healthy relationship with your partner. That
Mhm.
example, that one, I feel like that one's probably the trickiest one out of them all because we have such a high divorce rate. There's a lot of people who haven't figured out how to have a healthy relationship with their partner.
I just recorded right before I got on. That was my monologue recording for my podcast that is going to be next because I strongly stand for marriages, and we got to figure out how to make it work. We can't just run. and and with so much conflict in raising kids, so much conflict in the financial system and the health system, and so many different philosophies, it gets a lot harder. And so I know it's interesting. I just wrote like, what does lead by example mean? Because I think there's the what you mean and the purity of lead by example, and then there's the 10x that,
Oh,
which
yeah.
in my opinion is what I see every woman struggling with. Because there's one thing to lead by example, there's another to be a freaking human. Like,
Yes. Yes.
hey,
And
like I
own when things don't go well. And
exactly. And
talk about that too, to the level that the child can handle, and that's the other thing is, like, I feel like every parent should go through a childhood development course to understand, like, okay, at 2 years old, don't put your child in front of a horror movie, right? That's basic. But at the same time, there are parents who do that because they're like, "Oh, they're 2, they're never gonna remember this," but they're sponges at that age. And
uh-huh.
horror is gonna show up a different way in their body.
Hmm.
Yeah, like, it's understanding when you can have an adult conversation with your
Right.
teenager
Right.
and when they can actually take on that information. Yeah.
Yep.
Divorce
It
is
is
one of those
like
tricky ones,
bringing them. Mhm.
depending on how
It
old.
is, and every kid is so different, and how you raise them from an emotional intelligence and from an energetic intelligence standpoint also matters, right? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, we have created a very open family. We talk about things from a very young age, and if we always said, like, if we can give you some hard stuff, and you can also see that it's okay, so we can get in an argument. Excuse me, juice. And it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
We can confront you with something. You can fail at something. You can get cut from something. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And let that happen in the safety of your house if you've created a safe home. Because I just even think of our kids. Yes, they wobble and they waffle and they're growing, and but they're up for everything and they know they're going to be able to handle it. So the more we keep from them, the more we think they're weak and they can't handle it, the softer they are to
Mm.
truly not be able to handle it, or the harder they get faster because they don't have the tools to stay soft.
Yes.
Their tool is to protect and to put a guard up and then woof. Well,
Mhm.
now we're running into that with women and moms that are not in their feminine very often because they shut that shit down.
Yeah.
They couldn't handle it.
They forgot what pleasure was. I think that's the number one thing that I'm noticing and recognizing in the people that I work with is they forgot what true joy and pleasure is and the things that light them up.
Yep.
And
They don't know.
they've forgotten. It's like they
Yep.
just, you know what, we're going to put that in a closet. We're going to shut the door on that closet and, I'll take it out whenever I need to. But, oh yeah, I forgot to do that because I had 72 other things to do as a human.
I would say 90, I mean, that percentage is probably low, but 90% of women that come into our office, and I see very successful women that have a purpose and that are leading things, right? um, they have lost the who they are along the way. And I think we can say that concept is normal, but settling for that is not normal.
Right. Right. So true. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oof. Dr. Tiffany, we have covered a lot.
It's the best way, man.
Exactly. We're going to have to do this again. I'm going to have you on again. We're going to have another conversation. It's going to be a little more directed, a little more fine-tuned, talking to parents of athletes probably around what really should be how to lead your child and examples of that so that they can have some more concrete things to walk away with. Thank you so unbelievably much for being on the show. Where can people find you?
My chiro site is www.htchiro.com. So Healing Touch Chiropractic. And then mentorship site is drtiffanyjohnson.com. And Instagram is Dr. Tiff. And, like those are my names, Dr. Tiff Johnson and Dr. Tiffany Johnson. So I'm out there.
Excellent. All of those will be in the show notes for everybody to reach out to Dr. Tiffany and connect with you. You truly are a wealth of knowledge. You have some amazing gifts and you have some very beautiful ways of working through this world. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for bringing this to light. I think the more people feel like they're part of something that is improving and uncovering how to be better, the better we get as a whole. So I appreciate this because we were all a kid at one time and most adults didn't do a ton of work. And so we're all still kind of kids and adults in the adult body. That's how it feels sometimes. And so when we're parenting our kids through some tough stuff, we don't always know how to do it and what to do. So we have to come back to our own truth. The moms, the dads, the everybody first, so that your kids can see that, hey, I might mess up a lot, but I'm messing up at least in more truth than I ever was before. So
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Spirit of an Athlete podcast. If you're struggling with your own gut issues and want more direction, you can get an initial body scan from Amanda at bodywhisperhealing.com. In 20 minutes, you can find out what's wrong, get clarity, map the path forward, and get on track to get back in your game. If this episode hits the spot, please let us know by rating, reviewing, and sharing it with a friend. Subscribe now to hear more inspiring stories from other female college athletes who overcame their health issues. Want more, Amanda? Get inspired by finding more at bodywhisperhealing.com.